Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Level Up Podcast. Today with me, my friend Phil Kluba, serial entrepreneur and all around, professional person.
Yeah, I just like to have fun and try new things and enjoy myself while I'm doing it.
I love it. And can you tell me about that, serial entrepreneurship element?
Well, I don't actually eat any cereal, but serial entrepreneurship, I don't know. Like the term cereal is kind of interesting, but I'm just kind of have a mentality of always do. Like just like even if it might be a byproduct of ADHD. Actually, now that I think about it, it's just like I get a lot of ideas, and instead of just having them be ideas, I try to do something with them, make them into reality. Because if an idea is just an idea, unless you make it happen. So I do have a lot of unfinished projects that you probably don't know about. But I start a lot of things. Some I don't finish, some I do. And that's kind of how it goes.
Right. I really like what you said about like I'm a doer, because I always kind of classify people by only those two categories. That's like the most important thing to me. Like you can be very talented, like you can be whatever, but for me, I divide people into people who can do it or who can't, and who show up, because there were many cases when, you will have ideas and you will talk with the other person and he has ideas and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Let's get together tomorrow and like 9 a.m. we're going to be there. We're going to buy the lot or whatever. And he doesn't show up, and a lot of people don't show up.
Yeah.
So I really respect people, and like that's who I want to surround myself with, people who are doers.
Yeah, exactly. I think like 90% of it is just showing up. So it's like, even if you like just by chance and just being around other doers is also super helpful, because I guess you are what your circle is, or you are what like your 5 closest people are. So if you surround yourself with people with similar mentalities, and also you're not like offended when they're too busy as well. Like you kind of because you understand the drill.
Yeah,
it's
you're
like,
respected. Yeah,
you're respected, and it's like you like, and all the small stuff just seems to like slip away, and it helps with like your like interpersonal relationships as well, not just like your business relationships, because then you start to understand it's like life is more important than these small things that everyone's getting angry about.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
So,
it really matters to find the right people, the right team, especially I think in kind of our field when we're talking about production and like creating videos but I now I think it's like it's actually applies to anything, but having the right team who are all doers and show up at time, because I like whenever that's the problem I have with sometimes with people. I will be like, okay, let's do it. And then it's like, okay, so tomorrow, like whatever, 4 a.m. we're going to be there in the middle of nowhere or whatever. And it turns out not a lot of people are wired like that. Not a lot of people, they have plans, and then, but in the moment, everyone feels like, oh, I'm going to do it. I have idea. And then that's what happens whenever we're looking for like screenwriters and stuff. There was people who walking with ideas and they have idea and stuff, but nothing is produced.
Yeah. And
I'm like, it's great if you have ideas. It's awesome. But if you haven't produced anything, it's like.
Yeah, that kind of like the fact that you brought up production, like I feel like being good in production or being a good producer also makes you like a great business person in a sense, because it is a matter of showing up. Like there's been so many times where I've like hired grips or like or anyone on a crew, and it's like, hey, call time's at 4 a.m. It's like, will this person show up? So that's why I have like a handful of people that I know will always be there. And obviously like it's long hours too. Like I've had times where I'm on set for like 24 hours because it's like things go over budget. It's usually a music video, and then it's like, who's there and who's still doing it. That's kind of like, and I feel like those, once you like engrave that into yourself and that hard work ethic, like it kind of transcends into a lot of different industries.
For sure. I think it has a lot of power. That just being a doer has a lot of power, and you will go far if you just being a doer.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that come with being a doer too. Like you have to be like accepting a failure, like or not. You wouldn't even call it, like a doer wouldn't call it failure. It's just like another day.
It's experience. I always look at that.
So
I always look at that as experience, and the more expensive the failure, the better the experience.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of people were telling me, especially when I was starting, because I only started my business like a year and a half, right? I never had that. I used to work for other people. So people used to tell me, don't do that, don't do this. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. Because you don't listen unless your money is at stake.
Yeah.
But now when I'm sort of more in, and I started like losing money on some stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it means.
Yeah,
like you learn way faster and way better on your own mistake, especially when they're costly.
Yeah, if you lose money once, you're never losing it again on that same mistake. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
But I almost feel like it's worth it. Like it's worth to get that lesson, you know?
No, yeah, I think the lesson is way more valuable than a couple dollars here or there, because that's kind of like what makes you unique and gives you the confidence, because it's like, hey, I lost the money and I made it again. And if I'm ever in that situation again, I've been there and I know that I can help myself and get through it. So it's like you said, it's experience and not failure. Like some people would be like, I lost money, I'm not trying it again. It's like, no, we are going to now do plan B.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and that's kind of the lessons that I want to learn from other people, and like listen to other people who failed a lot, not people who just win nonstop, that they never had, they never stumbled on anything. They got, small loan of $1 million from their father and they just rolling with it. Like, I don't want to listen to those people. I want to listen to a guy who had a factory, candy factory, then he had a production company, then he opened the hot dog stand, everything failed, and now he opened like a business doing burgers or whatever. And it's doing awesome. Like that dude probably knows something, right?
Yeah. So like it made me like, even like the small loan, I know who you're referencing there. And then and it also made me think of the guy who made, I think, KFC. Like I don't think he started KFC till he was 58. And then also I think the guy who made Zara, he was also in like an older demo, like I think he was in his 60s where he got that success. And even Andy Warhol, like I don't think he even got recognized till like his 40s or something like that. So
and that's what you want.
Perseverance. It's like eventually like good things come to those who like wait and work and put their effort into it.
And you can totally, it's not to like diminish some people who just right away got it. It's just you can win a lottery for sure. You can win a lottery. You can become a number one YouTuber and stuff like that. It just can you have that as strategy for your business that is like, every day I'm going to go to this store and we're going to buy a lottery ticket and one day I will become a millionaire. That's not a freaking strategy, right?
It's not a strategy. But also like I feel like some people that might look like they've had it very easy, but sometimes you don't know what happens like behind closed doors either. It's like some people call other people like overnight successes, and it's like, sure, like you've only tapped into my story at this stage of my journey, but like you don't know the hours I've spent or or how many mistakes I made or how much money I lost, etc.
Of course. Yeah. Sometimes it feels obvious. Like if you look at some people, know their background, where they came from, it's like very obvious where the money is coming from. But for some cases when people are less public and like less about them, looking at him and being like, oh, he's pulling up in a Lambo, and be like, oh, his family probably rich. Maybe not.
Well, I could tell about you that you're definitely not one of those, and you're definitely a hard worker. Like especially like I'm curious. I have some questions for you actually. So like,
sure.
So did you like, how long were you, like when did you move to Canada, or like when did you come here?
So I came to Canada 8 years ago because in Ukraine there was very hard to find industry jobs. Like the industry was basically kind of in a dying state, so there was no productions. I was mostly working in television, and I did some like music videos, and I worked in marketing a little bit. I had to diversify. I worked 3 jobs, and I was barely making, I think for Ukraine it was decent because I was making $4,000 or $5,000 a month from 3 jobs.
Okay.
And I was like, there's nowhere to grow. I kind of like plateau. So I reached this plateau and there was nowhere to go, and there was no like, and the thing is, the other next step was like, I need to open a business, but because of the corruption and like the system in Ukraine is it's very tough to break through there in terms of businesses. Like you have to be more kind of ruthless and know the system and have good connections in there. And I always worked for some other people, in production. So I was TV director, I was TV editor, I was cinematographer, and that's what I stayed on. So I wanted to stay in it because that's what I love to do. Because whenever I do that, I don't feel like I'm working. So I loved it, And then I came to Canada, and I had to study again. And I didn't feel like I was like leaving everything sort of behind. I felt like it was new opportunity to start again.
Well, that's the mentality of a doer. You saw an opportunity, not like obviously a challenge, but like it was more of an opportunity. That's how you like perceived it. So yeah, exactly.
No, for sure.
Circling back to the doer, exactly. Yeah, that's why I was like, just like looking at you and like seeing how you operate and do things.
Yeah.
You can just tell that you are a doer and you have that aura, and you're like, and you're.
Well, you have to be. Just coming from my background and in my country, like when I was growing up, we didn't have money to buy my sister formula. Like my younger sister, we have 10 years difference, and when she was little, we couldn't buy baby formula, so I have to stand in the line during snow and like hot. I had to stand in line for free baby formula because we couldn't afford it, and she developed like calcium deficiency because of that. And for me, for my childhood, like gum was something special. I couldn't buy a gum.
Yeah.
And it's not that I was like super poor. I was super poor. Our family was super poor, but everyone around us was super poor.
Yeah,
it was right after the Soviet Union dissolved. Like I technically kind of for a few years was born in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And so everyone was extremely poor around us. So I didn't feel like I was like outcast or whatever being that poor, because everyone was poor.
Yeah, like I hear stories from like my father back like in the Soviet Union era, like because obviously Poland was a part of that as well. And I remember him telling me that like oranges were like a special thing. Like he would get like oranges for Christmas, and everyone would go crazy about it because like you don't see oranges. Also, I remember him telling me that they once like screened Star Wars, like when Star Wars just came out back in the day, near him, and people were like fist fighting just to like get in to see Star Wars.
I imagine because he probably remembers like proper Soviet time. I don't remember. I only remember the period of like 90s, which was like banditism and like everything falling apart, and everything was sort of available. We had like Coca-Cola and stuff, but it was just unaffordable. But we kind of had it.
It's interesting. Yeah. My dad, like, so it started. I remember my dad telling me it started with the students going on strike, and it started at his university.
Yeah.
So he told me he like woke up one day and he looked outside and there was like a tank just pointed at the school, and that's like kind of like when first the students started striking, then everyone else started striking, and that's kind of how it progress here. But history lessons, maybe not my forte.
It's a different life, but I also think that experience what builds you up as a person, and the more maybe extreme experience you have, not to project on anyone, but I feel like makes you more resilient in a way. It probably damages you in a lot of ways. Like I will give you example of my grandmother who would never buy sugar in like 1 kilo. Like she will always buy a 100 kilo sack of sugar, of anything, like she will buy in bulk, like because she went through the war, right? She remembers starving, and then Russians starve Ukrainians, so there was a Holodomor, and she remembers that she was eating crickets, she was eating insects and stuff like that. So I think that besides that it makes you maybe more resilient, it actually damages you a lot. And based on what our people do, like we all have, like in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, we all have huge balconies full of crap, of trash, and just everyone is a collector. Everyone has this tendency to old skis and like some jars of some preserved fruits and vegetables and stuff. Like our people are like, because they were preppers for like in case this happens again, because they were damaged by it.
I guess because you never know when it can come, but I guess that resilience also like breeds doers
in a way. For sure it does, but it's always I'm always thinking about the cost, because it's like I don't mind my childhood because I went through it. It was my childhood, that's what formed me. But would I want that childhood for like my kid? Probably not.
Not exactly.
It wasn't too bad. Some kids in we used to play on junkyards, we used to play on construction sites with like bricks and stuff, and we would go on like railroad tracks and put coins on it so the trains will flatten it. Would I want my kid to do that? Probably not.
Well, now they have iPhones and iPads, so they have different things to preoccupy themselves
for sure with. I think the only thing out of that whole experience, what I would want my kid to experience and more other kids to experience, because you mentioned digital and kids with iPads and iPhones, I feel like group games, like big group games. I remember my childhood, we would play like one house against another house, and there will be like at least like 50 kids in a yard, and we will go around and we'll play like a massive game, and that sort of interaction, I think that teaches you empathy, because if you hit another kid, he starts crying right away. So you see it and you're like, oh my God, that doesn't feel right. And so it's like it teaches you to collaborate with other kids and other people to like build something. And like more elaborate games, it's almost like a practice of a grown-up life, right? And now I feel, not to be like, old and ageist, and like that right now it's kind of lacking in the department for kids because of the devices, because of the internet, and because I think YouTube and kids shows on YouTube, like they will just watch it indefinitely.
Yeah, interesting. I guess the world is changing, and we work in digital. We make the things that people consume. So
we do, and partially I always felt kind of at fault here because I work in television specifically, and most of my life was in television. And to this day, I work for CBC News here, so I'm kind of. And I was doing reality shows. I was doing Bachelor, Hell's Kitchen, X Factor, and a lot of people are like blaming reality shows for a lot of mindless, television content. But to get to that point, producing like a big show, it takes an army of people.
Oh yeah.
And it was always like an uphill fight for me with the execs and producers about content that we are putting out. Like if you want to a little smarter, a little more advanced, a little more interesting, or let's say more thought-provoking, producers will always, or execs specifically, will come back to you and they will be like, no, but you don't know our audience. I'm like, who's our audience? And he's like, well, our audience is like this lady who's she's on the kitchen and she's washing dishes and she's not even watching, she's sort of listening. And I'm like, well, that's great.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's where the conversation usually ends, because it's like that was their, especially older execs, like old kind of sexist, sexist, racist, old white dudes. And in Ukraine, everyone is white dude. But it was sort of that vibes that they know really well who they selling to. Yeah. So they were like, oh, you don't know it. It's just this tired old, housewife. That's our audience. And I'm like, well, okay.
Well, sometimes you like through disruption, like obviously like you're maybe trying to disrupt the television industry, but like sometimes if you take a risk, you might be surprised with like what might come out of it.
For sure. But the tendency of producers and execs is that they don't want to take the risks. They don't want to. They want to take model. That's why they're buying franchises. That's why they're buying Bibles of pre-made shows worldwide, because they don't want to risk on you, because you're coming and you're like, oh, I have this amazing show. It can bomb, but it can be legendary.
It could be legendary, yeah. Obviously,
And they like, well, you know what? We'd rather have a mid of the road show that will definitely bring us some sort of cash instead of risking on you with your, wild idea.
Yeah. Well, I guess, where do we go to get wild ideas made then in this case?
Well, it's one way is just being a doer and just doing it yourself. That's what I learned with because I was like, probably like you had this experience that you looking for someone to produce your stuff, and I've been doing this like pretty much all my life. I was walking around and I was like someone has to. If I find the right producer, if I find the right production company, and they will understand me and they will start producing my stuff, and then I reached the point just kind of recently, just literally maybe like a year or more ago. I reached the point I was like, well, no one's going to produce your stuff unless you're going to produce it yourself. You're going to kind of start, you're going to take a hit. Because if you can take a hit and you feel that it's risky to take a hit on your own stuff, no one will risk, because it doesn't make sense. That's not how things work.
And it gives you proof of concepts too. Yeah. So then you can actually show something to someone, as opposed to because obviously you can script something, you can storyboard it, but and most of the time, even on production, even when you storyboard and script things, something like the magic that happens once you have all the light on and the talent brings something else to the table, it changes. So it is good to just have something to show prior to.
Tell me, that's a good segue. Tell me about something to show and things that you have to make, and I'm just looking at this and I'm very impressed by what you guys pulled off with the design and just the idea.
So I don't know. I guess we could start off. I'm gonna try.
Let's crack one.
Oh, look at that. Oh yeah. I'm not sure how cold these are, but it's just water. It's carbonated. It's carbonation. But I don't know. I started this with a business partner, Francesco, He designed it. Like he's like the creative designer type person. How it started was kind of random. We were playing tennis one time. We're like, hey, it would be cool if we have a water company. And then nothing happened for a year. Yeah. And then one day someone emailed me. I had a trademark because I'm a little bit in cryptocurrency, and it was about Doge. It was a Dogecoin. Do you know what Dogecoin is?
Yeah.
So I held a trademark for got Doge question mark, like got milk. And some guy emailed me and he's like, hey, like I own a water company and it'd be great if I can like, maybe we can collab because I want to make a water that can only be bought with cryptocurrency. And then I got on the phone with him and I was like, who are your suppliers? Who is doing this? And he like gave me the whole rundown, and then I just contacted them. I hung out with my friend Francesco. He designed this in like 10 minutes actually. I think we went to
like really? Those are the best designs.
Yeah, no, because honestly, like we were thinking about what it could be called, what it could be this, and then we were like, I think we had a beer, and I was like, why don't we do a play on beer? And then that's kind of like a parody on beer, and that's kind of how it started. And now we're in like, obviously I don't know much about the logistics and food and beverage industry, but I know a little bit about branding, a little bit about marketing, and that's kind of been our like I guess that's our strongest suit forward.
It's sort of synergy in a way.
Yeah, right? And I think most products are like a high percentage of it. It is marketing. Like even if you think about Red Bull,
especially if you're talking water.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically water. But it's interesting because now we are in the talks of bringing more partners in and some other stuff and people who do understand that industry. And yeah, it's been a fun journey. I don't know where it's going to take us, but I'm enjoying the process.
I want to say I really like the branding and I really like the idea behind it because Tall Boy, it's sort of that homage to beer. Yeah. Because I don't drink. Yeah. And it's been, I haven't been drinking since like, I guess, start of pandemic or something. And I was quite often, I was in a situation when I was just standing somewhere and it's like, well, you're going to drink pop or something like that or water. But having something like this, what totally will be cool because you feel you're not missing out on the like tactile experience of it, just having a Tall Boy.
And also like peer pressure. I did notice like a lot of people are like, oh, come on, you're not having a drink. What's up? Do you have a problem? Like, that's the question they always ask. Like, do you have a drinking problem? I was like, what? I was like, because I also wasn't drinking for about 2 years. I do dabble here and there now, but when it was just like the clarity I had. I kind of liked how clear my mind was and everything. And everyone immediately assumes that I had a drinking problem and I had to quit. But I was like, no, it's just like you should maybe try and see what kind of benefits you have. Like it's great.
I think that industry is very far-reaching in a way, like alcohol industry, because that's all branding, right? Because you assume as you're growing up, you assume if you want to have fun, you should drink with your friends, with your buddies. That's the only way. Because try to gather around if you're not, a nerd and like you're playing Dungeons and Dragons or something. Even then you will drink without like drinking. Like it just, and a lot of people will also assume that they're not fun. They can't have fun. It's not interesting, and then the peer pressure. But then the other day I was like, we had the whole story at CBC about this, about the connection between alcohol and cancer. And alcohol is actually Schedule 1 cancerogen, same as cigarettes. Wow. And people don't talk about that. It's the same. It's the same level cancerogen as cigarettes. And labels do not, respect that and do not show that. So there was a province in, oh my God, where did they try it? Somewhere far, like a Nunavut with small population. They tried to have the warning labels on alcohol. Mm-hmm. And the consumption felt like 60% immediately with labels. Yeah. And what happened, the alcohol companies lobbied to remove that like right away and kind of tried to, conceal the whole case. Because the argument is this, like, according to like recent researches, that even wine, even a little bit more moderate amount of like wine is the same as drinking like a full-on bottle of like tequila or whatever.
Interesting.
Because it's still cancerogen. So no matter, it's like, okay, I'm going to have a little bit of poison. It doesn't matter. It's still poison.
It's still poison,
like, you can have a little bit or you can have a lot. It's still poison. It will accumulate over time.
Yeah, like I have read that alcohol does have similar side effects as like some crazy drugs as well too. But it's interesting because I think right now, like, alcohol sales are decreasing in general. Like, I think a lot of people are smartening up, and they're taking care of their body a lot more. I was even I was in California not long ago, and was in Los Angeles, and a lot of people, there's like a whole sober trend going on there right now with a lot of people. And one thing that when I obviously when I quit drinking the first time, obviously going to bars and stuff, like everything was kind of boring, and it like the level was here. But once you do it for like a while, it's like everything just like raises. It's like your new standard is like here. And I read that pineal gland or whatever, like apparently alcohol crusts it up like after like a long usage of it. So like you're not like accessing a lot of like your potential. It kind of like bottles it up, like even like the way your brain thinks and what you're able to do with it.
100%. It's just, well, we can see the effects. We're very familiar with the effects. I will say that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, I think the key is always legislation and how government approaches to it. Because see what's happened with cigarettes. As soon as the labels came in and they show what happens to you, you're rotting from inside, and what happens to your lungs, the people suddenly like considering not to do it. In mass, and it just, cigarettes are gone, almost phased out. Like
but from a capitalistic approach, I think the vape people saw an opportunity here, right? So now there's like this new product also that I smoked cigarettes here and there back in the day, but I don't even touch them anymore. So like I'm not sure if it's because of the packaging or what happened, but I think just like overall education on things, like the more knowledge you have, the more better you're able to do. Like you're better to make better, you're able to make better decisions. Sometimes I just think we don't have enough information about a topic or the right information. Right. And
I agree with you. You should have information and you will decide for yourself, not to bash on people who smoking, on people who drinking. It's your personal choice. But before you go into it, you should know, all the information about it. Like, for example, when I was a kid, we used to, and like I was in university and stuff, we used to like binge drink. We used to drink so much. I used to like sleep in university. I was so drunk. And I used to go to my classes and be like wasted. And we drink like heavy stuff. We drink like cognac and like vodka. And it was like,
I gotta love the vodka. Yeah, I know.
It was brutal. And I feel like, because I thought it was cool and awesome, and I felt cool and awesome, Yeah. But if someone told me that I will develop a cancer based on that, or my liver will like freaking collapse, because I would reconsider. I had no option for that information. I only knew one side. Whoever did it, whoever drank, was cool, awesome. They had parties. They had they had fun. I wanted to have that. But I had no idea there was disadvantages to it. I knew it about cigarettes actually when I was a kid, because a lot of people even in that time was talking about, how dangerous it is. So I actually didn't pick up cigarettes.
Yeah.
So if I had this information about alcohol, maybe I wouldn't pick up the alcohol to begin with. You know?
Yeah. It's interesting because you make me think of a couple things actually. So like the hangovers, like when I was younger, it was a lot easier. Now it's like it just destroys me.
I had no hangovers. I could have drank. I could have killed the bottle of vodka like 07 on my own.
Yeah,
and I would be fine.
But
because of Eastern European, we have like higher tolerance, and I was tall, and like I could have drank so much. But then retroactively, I started looking at it, I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, you probably like filtered so much of this stuff.
Yeah. So like speaking of genetics, also like I was Nem, like Big Nem.
Oh, of course.
So I had a couple drinks once, and then I actually just like spilt a drink a little bit, and he looks at me and he's like, "Stop acting Polish," and I'm like. I just thought that was pretty funny, so I was like, okay.
Yeah, shout out to Big Nem. He can drink for sure.
Yeah, he doesn't like. I haven't seen him drink actually. I think he's on this self. What would you call it? He's just like focusing on himself. He's doing a great job. Super big supporter of Big Nem.
No, for sure. It's just more saying of the background. It's I feel like all of us Eastern Europeans have a capacity for.
Yeah, we do.
To do a lot.
I think it's actually written in an encyclopedia too. Like my dad would always like show me. He's like based on like ethnicity, like who can consume the most vodka, and it's like Russians, Polish people, Ukrainians, all in that.
We're up there, we're in the top, which is probably a negative, but it's just because we have genes that will break down alcohol basically faster. But that's the downside of that is just the generations of binge drinking, and people die, and we are top, like Ukraine, Russia, and like Poland, Belarus, top countries by death by heart attack among men. Like top, like literally, I think the average lifespan for a male in Eastern Europe, specifically Ukraine and Russia, is about 60 years, under 60 years.
Yeah, that's pretty young.
That's really young. That's maybe really. I have left 20 good years probably.
Well, if you drink water, you stay hydrated.
You gotta drink. You gotta stay hydrated. You gotta drink water. But also, I'm thinking now on the other side, it's just marginality in the business of water. It probably is like amazing.
It's like we still have to figure out some logistical things. That's why we have to bring in the big guns on that front. But I learned more about beer and alcohol. Like the margins are better because you do get taxed on, I think, every can of beer you produce. So even if you give it out or sell it, you're still taxed on it. With this, like, I'm not taxed on, like, there's like competitive advantages here as well. And the more I learn about the beer industry, and obviously LCBO just went on strike and all this stuff. So there's convenience stores that are starting to adopt beers and maybe adopting beers and alcohol. And I'm just trying to understand what the business model is going to be there as well. Because obviously I'm not sure how they'll why would a convenience store want beer in their thing? Like, I'm not sure what their margins are, or is it like a loss leader?
Well, everyone will want alcohol. The thing I learned was started doing events actively recently, and actually being the selling alcohol at events.
Oh my god, they mark that up really high though. So like at an event, like it's like you're easily paying like $10.
You actually selling it for like 3-4 times that you bought it.
So but now let's say a convenience store buys it for like what, $2, maybe a little bit more, and they have to sell it for $3.50.
They have a potential, they selling bigger capacity of it. Like they selling more often, and it's still, I would say alcohol is sort of kind of like a golden goose. That's what I learned about it. That you can make crazy money on alcohol. Crazy money, which is like interesting because we were just talking how damaging and how bad the industry is. But what I learned by like kind of participating in industry and selling alcohol at events, I'm like, this is like, you can actually don't sell tickets, you can just sell alcohol, and it's just crazy profit. And even considering that I'm buying not like a bulk prices, I'm buying like LCBO, like a regular retailer prices, and still like you making like 4 times what you invested in it.
But you also like consider like licenses and all this other stuff. Like there's a lot more like loopholes there, like a lot more
for sure. But even with all of those loopholes, if you reach that point that you can continue to, especially like in clubs, like if you have a club, oh my god, that's alcohol is your number one thing. You're like, for sure. That's why any like restaurants is like their first thing, especially if they downtown and they lease is really crazy high. Like their main thing would be alcohol. Like the dishes, like they will barely cover the salaries of people. If you want to make a profit, you have to sell alcohol.
I also remember like when I wasn't drinking and I would go to a restaurant and I just get a meal and whatever, it'd be like so like the bill is so much smaller. Like obviously the markups in the alcohol.
That's what I learned as well when I stopped drinking. I was like, oh my god, my bills went down compared to,
exactly.
Because if now you go and you buy like a dish for $30, you paid $30 plus tax, right? No, the other day you go, before I used to, you will go and you buy a $30 meal, then you will buy one $15 cocktail, another $15 cocktail, another.
Next thing you know, it's like $100.
And suddenly you're paying like $150 just for one person.
Exactly. I know. Well,
no, it's the right way, and I would definitely be thinking to investing in water, and that's such a cool untapped market. If you can make it also cool and interesting, and with a concept like being a tall boy and being kind of like beer for people who don't want to drink but have the same sort of tactile experience, I think it has so much potential.
And like it's like we're trying to just be more than water as well, like also like a movement, a culture, a community. Like
I think that's the only way. You have to be a movement and a culture if you want to change things and disrupt in this industry, because I think there's still a big sensibility of, if you want to have fun, you gotta drink, or like if you want to go somewhere, you have to drink. And it's almost majority of people don't even know that is the even possibility of having this changed, and
it's also just like taking that first step and then realizing that you can have a lot of fun doing other things. Like you can have fun. I bet like hanging out with Igor all the time is probably fun. You can go hang out with Igor instead. Why drink? Hang out with Igor instead, and just have fun. There's other things to do.
That's true. Talking about other things to do. So tell me a little bit more about, other ventures and other stuff.
Predominantly I have a media production business called Press It. So this was my 10th year now of that.
Wow.
So
10 years. You probably have some, good insights for 10 years in it.
Well, 10 years in it. Yeah. Honestly, I would say take any risk. Like if you're gambling or just take all the risks, I would say. Like I started when I was 22. I'm 32 now, so it's been 10 years. When I started it was like obviously I wasn't making much money or whatever. And then you pick up one client, and then that's like consistent revenue. Then you pick up another. Then you get like you get some other clients, and then I started live streaming in 2016. And then a good friend of mine was working closely with Shopify, and then he was doing events there, and he's like, hey, I really want to live stream this event. And Facebook Live like just came out at the time. I started doing those live streams. He invited me to like another party. Then someone there from Facebook was there, and I went up to him and I was like, I want to bring a band into your office and I want to live stream them from your office. And he's like, okay, let me see about that. And then like didn't hear anything for like 6 months or whatever. And then one day he emails me, he's like, can you come in next week? And then it's like, okay, cool. We got to like figure this out. And then I did that live stream.
So did that client came from just you live streaming? Like they saw your live stream or something?
It became... So which client specifically? So
I'm talking about this one that you did the band in.
Oh, the band. I paid for the live stream myself. I did it for free for the band, and then I guess they recouped some of my hard costs. But it was one of the best streams there. And then someone from Facebook Canada was like, "Hey, like we know you did this like just off the hook. Like you did it, like and like they saw that I put my effort into it, and I did everything." He's like, we get all this equipment sent to us, and like here's this little live view unit, do you want to try this thing? And then I tried it, and we got like a lot of views on that live stream. So then I emailed the live view people, and then they were like, hey, we love what you did here, let's like do more stuff together. And then it's obviously like if you build something cool, like start presenting it or whatever and showing people. And then in 2019 I partnered with William F. White's. I did this crazy live stream, and I was also all my money again. Like I just like was broke again, like living on a couch. I think my girlfriend left me because she's like, you're so poor right now. And I was like, but someone saw that live stream and it was like, no one's doing this. This is kind of crazy. And then that got me more work. So it's like, if you have an idea, like, and you think it's going to work, sometimes people just want to see you have balls, essentially, or not even balls, or just like the fact that you're like, hey, all the odds were against this guy, and he just said, fuck it, I'm gonna try it, and then you do it. So honestly, I haven't really like talked about this story ever on a camera. So, and a lot of people do ask me about like, how did you end up where you end up? I was like, well, there's been a few pivotal moments where I literally gambled everything, and that was about it. And that's kind of like,
well, that was a huge risk, and like, but did you felt like it was right based on you obviously didn't you obviously did based it on something, right? Or some hunch or something, on knowing where industry was going, and that live streaming will become big. Is that at that point when live streaming wasn't too big? If you're
it wasn't
saying that,
too big, everyone
it's just Facebook Live.
Everyone said I was crazy for doing this. They're like, why would you do it? And I did it in 2019, and it was like 2020 the lockdowns rolled around, and then they're like, who do we call? Oh, it's like this kid Phil called us like a year ago, and he knows how to do live streams. And then people started emailing. A lot of the streams I was doing during the lockdowns were remote. Like I was just patching someone's Zoom in and then sending it out. And then I started working with this guy Michael Landsberg, who was he was like a former TSN host. And he's like the bell, like he did a lot of like stuff for mental health. And then we started like a daily mental health, like, well, it was his idea and I helped him like technically produce it from Zoom. And we had some crazy guests on there, like Mitch Marner. There was like a lot of hockey people. We did 60 episodes, and I never knew a lot about broadcast, and he came from that broadcast world. So that's kind of like where I learned how that all functions and like all the terminologies and all that stuff. Yeah.
It's interesting because like I had my first sort of experience with streaming during pandemic as well, because a lot of my clients were asking like, well, we want to do like a Zoom event. And I was like, what do you mean like a Zoom event? And it was like, well, we will have a chef. We will send everyone a kit of the same food and they will cook with the chef on Zoom, like live. And we want a multi-camera setup. We want everyone to have laughs, and we want him to hello puppy, puppy, everyone, and we want him to have ability to talk with people on Zoom. And I was like, that's so cool. And then more people and more companies started asking me for that. And I was like, this is something new. This is a whole new world. And then I started jumping in. I got my own kit. I got my own, Blackmagic streaming stuff. But before that, I only knew broadcast side of it. And I knew it was unapproachable. Like unapproachable to the point that you won't be able to even afford one camera in that kit. Because a regular way of streaming, like or like going live with ENG cameras, requires you $120,000 camera plus lens. That would be like another $50,000, and then the whole ENG setup. So you will need a SAT truck or a microwave truck, which we still have at CBC. And it's extremely freaking expensive, and you run, cables and stuff. So the other actually interesting story, like maybe 2 years ago, I was doing like a live stream of Afro Wave Festival, and it was happening in a boxing club on like a boxing arena. And after we did the live stream, I did a multi-camera live stream with Blackmagic cameras, and the owner of the boxing club saw it. And he was like, oh, wow, I saw the quality. Awesome. Like, what do you charge for it? Yeah. And I was like, oh, I should say like a big number. I was like, well, like 15,000. He was like, oh, wow, that's so cheap. And like the other day, we had the live stream, and he shows me the live stream that this broadcast company did for them. And he was like, yeah, so that was, and it's like the quality is really crappy. It's like the old DNG sort of quality. And we paid about $85,000. And I was like, God damn it, I should have said more. But that's what it was. The world was like, there was only that option. It's either you hire people for 100K, a day, or you don't approach live. You can broadcast live. Like there was just no such option.
Yeah, I think 15K can get you a pretty good live stream these days. For
sure. Like, these days it's even like, way under that. Yeah, well, it's like getting.
Well, like at that point, it's like you're dealing with more production stuff, and like it's like
I would say you can get a live stream these days for very cheap, for less than $200, on even cheaper. The difference is it's just the production quality and
the
level.
production
so
value.
The lights, the sound, the how it's edited, and because sometimes people don't see the difference. They think stream is a stream, and when you have one camera and stuff, it's all easy and peachy. But if you're required to talk to other people, if you're required to move, I'm talking more like a broadcasting side of it. The more it becomes like a show, and it requires consistency in the lights, or it has to be custom. Because right now there's so many companies that popped out that do like sort of live streaming or like podcasting, podcasting, and they offer it for dirt cheap, but the quality is piss poor. Whenever it's a good product and you have a good product and people come to you and it's like, oh, why those guys are selling it for $200? I'm like, well, because they shooting with the cheapest cameras with the cheapest lights, and I just have costs.
Well, if that's a question that kind of client's asking, is that a client that you want?
No, you probably don't. You probably don't. Exactly. And like the category that I'm usually doing the live streams or like podcast shoots is mostly like corporate entities. They don't ask stuff. But actually, I want to say that everything is slowly changing, because they used to be like the clients I have, like KPMG and Baker's, like they usually don't ask about the why do you need that light or whatever? Like, in an invoice, you will have tons of stuff. So it's slowly changing in the way that companies and have less marketing money, the budgets are slower, it's maybe inflation, combination of post-pandemic and stuff, people have less money to spend, they feeling that they have less advertising money too. So they start looking more into your invoice and they start shopping more. And I actually acquired quite a few new clients because I had to be competitive with my rates. And it used to be non-issue in the corporate sector. Like you can put basically whatever you want in an invoice, they would pay for it. They didn't care. Now they go, line by line. So I don't know where we at. You know?
Well, I feel like sometimes even if I guess line by line they can check that out. But like if they trust you and they know that like I'm hiring Igor and I've never had an issue with Igor, and I know that Igor is always going to deliver, and it's like sometimes they're just like, I'm okay with whatever he shows me as long as it's not like ridiculous. And sometimes it's instead of like lowering my rates, I try to offer them more as opposed to that. I'd be like, hey, if we plan this well and we have all these cameras set up, why don't we get some testimonial videos in here as well, and we can batch that in.
No, for sure. And I get what you're saying. Like that sort of long-term collaboration, long-term work is one factor that allows you to get that gig continuously. But again, just getting back, the times are changing, and they're really, really changing. And they really, really changing because you notice it in your, revenue, and you notice it in clients, and you notice it in the agencies. They're just falling apart. There's multiple agencies just falling apart, losing the staff, losing their, offices and stuff, just because they don't generate as much money, especially if they bloated and big, they have a lot of employees, and suddenly the marketing is going down, the budgets are going down, and they cannot afford it. So it's like you have to be, and the other side of it is just, there's so many people, so many shooters, so many people who just can learn from YouTube. There's no more gatekeepers in the industry. There's no more no one's holding you back. If you can go, on YouTube, you can learn everything in a day,
But why would I don't even like gatekeepers to begin with. I feel like share the knowledge.
No, for sure. It just before it was just inaccessible in a way because there was a financial gateway to even get there. For example, to be in editing, you used to have, especially if we're talking about editing in film, so before the digital, right, or like just digital intermediate, you need like a cinetape, you need something that will scan it. It was extremely expensive. It was like $1 million to buy it. So it's like there was a gate. Even when we worked, and it was like 720p when we worked with like digital beta cams and stuff like that. The digital beta cam recorder was like $100,000. So if you were editor, you used to have 5 of those, right? And so the entry was like inaccessible to majority of people. And right now you literally you can stream with your phone whatever you have like right away, right? So there's no longer that entry. The only thing that sort of remains, that sort of silver lining, is the skills of the person who's working there. Do they know composition? Do they know how to work with light? Do they know how to get a clean sound? Do they know the basics of storytelling? Does it make sense? The story-wise, does it have beginning, the end, the middle? So that all the creative side that you will still have to learn, and that thing wouldn't come easy, but the technical side comes extremely easy.
Yeah, and obviously like experience does too, like especially with like live broadcasts, like something can go wrong at any moment, and like your experience is like, okay, I know how to fix this very quickly. But like
having a contingency,
or a contingency in play, that comes from experience, because you maybe had a stream that was really bad one time, and then you never let that happen again. But even speaking of cameras and stuff, like the FX3s are like a jam-packed camera as well. But now, because you're mentioning agency overheads, budgets are getting smaller, but then you have this ability to be nimble and pivot and like work all these angles. So would you say that a person with those kind of skill sets will become very valuable in this new age of like smaller budgets, et cetera, et cetera? Maybe perhaps a company like a larger company won't choose to go with an agency because of all of their overhead costs and how expensive they are, and they might choose you instead because you don't have that extra overhead cost.
And that's sort of exactly what we see happening right now. Is that clients and even medium to large clients are starting pivoting toward more like boutique companies, boutique marketing companies, because they don't want to pay those overheads. And they want more, I think, flexibility, more creativity with copy, with, you know, creative, with even placement. So there's more of that. And it's like being small. But the other sort of side of this coin is that you just have to do more now. So you just have to do more. Just people assume you, like, I will tell you, like, I'm coming background of like broadcast and like film production. And if I was studying film directing, I was meant to be a film director. If I was studying to be cinematographer. So I only deal with camera. I have the first AC, second AC, right? So there's all those people. So at one point, and it's been on the roll for a pretty long time. I was like, okay, so I'm down. If I'm only directing, I will be down between projects. I was like, I don't want to be down. I'm going to do cinematography work. So I started doing cinematography work. And then it was like, I'm still down. I have to do it. I will do editing. But then the clients that were coming to me, they were like, oh, they would assume it needs to be edited. They would assume it needs to be, you know, colored. They would assume the sound needs to be recorded. So now when people, you know, call you, they ask for a product, they don't even care. Do you know that or don't know? But you kind of have to know it. And the other side of it that, you know, people call now instead of before they were calling and they want video, they want a commercial, they want something specific, a product in video production, right? Right now they're calling and they asking me, we need content. I'm like, what kind of content? Well, they like a little bit of video, a little bit of pictures. So now it even simplified even more. So right now the big umbrella is not even you doing sound or that. It's just content. We just need content.
Yeah, exactly. And I just literally saw you when you were setting this up. You were a DP, you were audio, you were everything.
Yeah, I'm kind of setting up everything myself. Only my girlfriend, she's switching it, editing. So she's a director.
And you were like,
live stream.
You were like starting off as a director. You're like, okay, now I got to go be talent and sit down and you're everything.
That's what you have to do. You have to wear a lot of hats, but and it's going to escalate even more because now you're competing with people who wear a lot of hats because kids who were and they actually consume the content on much faster scale than you, especially that educational content about film and about how to shoot and stuff. So they actually know more quite often, and you're competing with them. And the thing is, they don't have yet experience understanding of the industry, and they will come up with like ridiculous rates. You know, and there's argument there that they know technical side of it. Do they know the creative side of it? And do they have experience? Can they handle, you know, the creative side of it? Which is, you know, argument to be made. But what I'm saying is just, no matter your position, the truth is the market is flooded with talent. The market is flooded with people who, especially like, I mean, production, video production specifically, is flooded with people. And it's very hard to distinguish yourself right now. And you just have to do more.
Yeah, that's true. That's like on like the actual work side. But then like managing accounts and like managing your client is also a skill set as well. It's like, and how you present yourself and how the client is spoken to. There's so many things you have to consider now as well. But yeah, I do agree with you with you do have to have smaller teams, be more nimble, and know a lot more too. And even on the topic, like even like how much money I personally bring in from a project, whether it's like a 30-person crew or a 5-person crew, I'm still probably bringing in the same amount of money. I just have way more stress when it's like 30 people. And sometimes it is good to like have a lot more control over things too, because like it's maybe it's a good thing.
I like it in a way. I like it because the production becomes smaller, it becomes more intimate. And then the other thing, clients no longer care about quality in a way. Like they no longer care. They don't see the difference. I mean, like the quality is already across the board. Whatever you're gonna buy, that's talking to people who looking for a camera or whatever. You buy $1,000 camera or you buy $100,000 camera, it will look pretty much the same. If it's lit the same, it's gonna look the same. Yeah. You know, and the clients don't see that difference. And like I know that we like in the industry, we like to argue which camera is better, which one have more dynamic range and stuff, all of that stuff. And the truth is, it doesn't matter. Like what matters is what's happening in a shot, what story is being told, what they wear, how they look, and you know how they lit, and then the camera is at the end of that whole list.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think backwards. They think the camera is the first thing, and that's how usually students or people who are going into industry like me, well, I used to think the camera was everything, the gear you have was everything, and now I'm like, well, the gear is is not as important as you would think. There's another
I think lighting is pretty important.
Lighting is super important for sure. And there's another argument right now that people saying, because there was too much skew that people started saying that gear doesn't matter, and then people started saying, well, gear does matter. Well, yes, the gear for the right job matters, but the price point of the gear doesn't matter that much. The argument would be, well, surgeon needs a scalpel, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference between $50 scalpel and a $100,000 scalpel? Probably he will still make you a surgery, right?
Yeah.
And if you're dying, he will still save you. So
yeah.
So, but does he need a scalpel? He does need a scalpel, because if you give him a fork, like, you probably wouldn't get the surgery. So gear matters in a sense that you need right gear for a job.
Yeah.
But the price tag on that gear matters less. So the argument would be like that too, because with cameras, like, pretty much any camera gives you 99% there or 90% there, right? If you want to go like super expensive high-end camera like RE or Red or something, you will buy that. That will give you just extra maybe 5% on top of it of quality.
And you also need to like hire more people to use an RE2, because now you need a focus puller, you need all this stuff. Like the FX3s have like autofocus and like that function. That's now, super helpful. Yeah,
there's more stuff to add, but you can squeeze that if you really need. If you're in the industry and you're doing the video that requires that sort of quality, that's sort of attention to detail, for sure. But for 99.9% of all the cases in video production, it doesn't require that like extra.
Unless you're like making some like feature that's like
if you're making films, then even in that industry it was proven wrong. Like there was this recent film Creator that was shot with FX3 and it was in IMAX, and people used to say that for IMAX you only need the IMAX camera or it wouldn't look like shit. And that film proven wrong. A lot of people wrong in the other category, which was CGI, because they used to say if you want to shoot for CGI, you need high, resolution camera. You need 8K, 12K, or more. That film was shot with FX3, which is just 4K only.
Yeah, but I think
and they still did amazing posts.
I think the bit rates on these though are pretty good though. And then if you
so what they did, they shot with external recorders. They shot with Atomos, so they get raw. So they get, I think it's 12-bit technically raw or 10-bit. I don't know. I know that it records internally 10-bit, but it probably outputs like 12-bit in raw. So that's more so your color range, and the dynamic range is not the best. So it's not up to par with like a Arri Alexa Mini or like Arri Alexa 35, but it wasn't a stopping point for them because they could have what it allowed them to do is they were nimble, had a smaller crew, they could travel around the world, and they can shoot in real locations around the globe with a smaller crew instead of having, like you were saying, like tons of assistants. And
do you remember that film Blair Witch Project?
Oh yeah,
that was shot on like a nothing, like a potato.
And that was
and it was like a big blockbuster hit.
That was a whole movement with, like, I think Lars von Trier started it. It was called Dogma 95. It was started in 95, and the idea was because the video is just appeared, like the emergence of like video, which was like mini DVs and DVC Pro cameras. So the idea of this movement Dogma was that camera doesn't matter, and it has to be non-edited. It can be like live, and actors can't rehearse and stuff. Like there was a whole rule book for that. But the thing is, they shot with video, and I think a couple of his films were almost following that style. It was Melancholia that was shot on video. It was I don't remember if Dogville was shot like that. Probably something more cinematic, but Melancholia for sure was shot with like a video camera. And a lot of people started like David Lynch started embracing the video with like Videodrome and all of that stuff. Like that style was becoming more popular, and I think at this point people more forgiving in terms of the format that you're doing, and more like willing more to explore weird formats. The only thing where quality is paramount and you cannot really fuck up is sound. Because
Yeah.
no matter what, your image can be grainy, all fucked up, all, you know, the colors and everything, it can like shake violently. But if your sound is crisp, people will still watch it.
Yeah.
Even if you have the best image in the history of image, you have 16K like on like some crazy prime lenses and stuff like that, but your sound is crackling,
Yeah.
people wouldn't even be able to watch that long, honestly. Because try to watch the audio that is like crackly for like more than, I don't know, 5 minutes. Like,
Oh yeah, no, it's annoying. It's hard.
Be hard pressed.
Yeah, I feel like it's more irritating to the ear than it is to the eye when you want to watch something like that. But I think there's a lot of tools coming out where like, I think like Adobe has this like podcast enhancer tool.
Oh no, AI tools are amazing. I have Topaz, I have you know, DaVinci Resolve. I added in DaVinci Resolve everything, and DaVinci Resolve now have a denoiser, and it's like literally one button. It's either on and off, and then the slider 0 to 100%. And the other day I recorded like an interview with a person during the packing. So everyone was packing. Production was packing. You know how noisy it is, everyone. And the interview was recorded on an iPhone, just like 5 feet away, on the iPhone. Whatever, the microphone on the iPhone, right? And you can imagine it was like very hard to hear anything. Mm-hmm. So I just used that AI denoiser and it just cleaned it. It was very compressed, but it was like clean. It was like before that, like it was just, you have to like throw it away. There's no way to fix it like that. And then the other day during one of our events right here, I've been recording performance of one of our performers, like the whole series of performances, and the audio was clipped on the board, so not in a camera. So camera was getting not a hot signal, but it was clipped on the board. So the peaks were totally cut. There's no peaks. So I went and I downloaded a Topaz denoise, and then they have peaking tool. So what it did with AI, like there's almost no settings. It like restored the peaks, and I was listening to it, and it was like perfect, but there was no information. That's the craziest part, because I get it when you clean it. I get it, you just clean it, right? There's some information there, but in this case it was totally cut. The peaks were non-existent. It was like it was like really crackling.
It's like just like a straight line,
right?
Like
and the AI tool in Topaz just like drew a new peaks. So when you look at the waveform, it was like extending it, and it was the correct pitch, correct sound. So also the girl was singing, so it's like it would have been really weird. It was really distorted. So it was perfect. And I was blown away. It's a paid tool, Topaz, but it just miles ahead of anything that's like embedded in the editing software.
And then when you were doing that mix, was it like a mix of the song? Like it was or was they individual?
It was mixed. It was an individual. No. It was dealing. It was dealing with a single output, because I took the XLR output for the speaker on the board. So I plugged it in camera, and I did not know it was peaking. It was cut on the board level, right? Because in the camera it wasn't peaking for me. So it was down mixed. It was a mix of ambience and her mic and the music on top of each other, and the tool still understood the difference and still drew a perfect waveform. And it was like, for my ear, it was perfect. I imagine there's a professional sound guy who can say that he can hear it. But for me as a audience, it was like great. And I was blown away.
That's interesting though. And it's like, we always have these people that are like from the old days, and they're like, no, that doesn't sound like, even analog to digital sound. There's a lot of people complaining about that.
Well, that's like purist, and then there's also crazy people, because that's people. Like, I had the whole conversation with my good friend composer Felipe Telias the other day. He was on a podcast as well, and we were talking about, I was asking, so does it make a difference, like golden plated cable, would it make a difference? And of course it doesn't make a difference, and like so all those things that people can hear something, they claim that they can hear something like a crazy dynamic range or something. In a lot of cases, just in their head, it's just a perspective. And it's like people were saying, oh my god, the vinyl sounds amazing, and people who, when we were used to listen on vinyl, we used to hate it because it will crack, it will deteriorate. Like, the vinyl wasn't great medium. And when the digital came, we were like, oh my god, you can have digital, you can have clean finally, right? It's like some things are gone, Because they obsolete.
Yeah.
You know, the lamplighters are gone. The freaking people who will wake up people in the morning are gone. Or like the people, chimney cleaners are gone. Some things are gone because they obsolete. You know, like we had some technology would not be will never be back. Like vinyl, I get it. There's a sensibility, but of like remembering it as a kid, of nostalgia, right? And that industry is pretty much dead, right? That industry is like maybe 0.1% of what it existed before. But then think other mediums like tapes. Like, would you listen to music on tape?
Well, also it's complicated because like if you have to rewind it.
You have to rewind it. Also, I remember if you jogging, running with it, it will interrupt.
Yeah.
Like if you dink on it, even the disc ones, like the CD disc with music.
Yeah.
Usually, unless you have a really fancy player that could have a buffer and it records it, if you're running with it, it will skip the song. So even the digital disc was like kind of inconvenient, you know.
It was inconvenient, but apparently it was like one of the best sounding things I heard somewhere. But then when streaming came along,
it's digital. The thing is, it wouldn't be. It's just a digital signal. You can put it on a flash drive. You can put it on CD. The signal would be the same. And the truth is, people talking about the medium. People rarely talk about because medium is like a glass bottle, right?
Yeah.
And then your product is whatever you pour in it. And people don't understand. So a lot of musicians were down mixing and working on much cheaper and crappier equipment than you listening on. So you're not. That actually the argument for a lot of Beatles recording originals. They were made on like crappiest in mono.
Yeah, in mono.
On a crappiest equipment. And you listening now maybe on $100,000 audio system with the gold-plated cables and like and you thinking you're getting some extra sound. You're not getting extra sound.
Yeah. I remember the Beatles had that. They hated when stereo came in. They had the whole back to mono movement. But it's
yes, but the argument is if you have 50 milliliters of quality, right? Yeah. And you pour it in a 1 liter receptacle, it's still 50 milliliters of quality. There won't be extra quality because your receptacle, your medium or like wherever you're playing it is better. If it's a crappy file, like it will play, still crappy.
A lot of that stuff was like filmed with, like recorded with one microphone too. Instead of, they were just like placing people further in the room. They were like, okay, bass player, you go over here. And it's
there's a lot of, how do you say, shortcuts that they have to go around. But also for people who actually do music and they understand it, and they appreciate it, and sound mixer and stuff, they really understand it. And if you see they at home have, run-of-the-mill audio system and they happy with it, you should be happy with it as well, because they professionals in that. They actually the ones who mixed it.
Yeah, but they also know their like equipment, and they know the shortcomings of their equipment, and and what frequencies they don't hear in some things. So, and also like what your mentality is also affects how you hear things as well.
Of course.
I used to do a lot of stuff in music and music videos, and I was also a songwriter back in the day. So I did like record some records here.
Did you came first from like a songwriter background?
Yeah, songwriter background. Then I made
that was way before the live streaming and everything.
Yeah,
that
way
was
before.
Oh wow.
So I was I went to like a music I went to Metalworks Institute for like, and then started working at a recording studio. I was in a band, and then I got like a factor grant to do one of my own songs, and I made a music video for that song. And then someone was like, hey, this is a really cool music video, can you do a music video for me? And I was like, I'm making more money doing music videos than I'm singing. So it's like, and you don't make that much money on music videos. So, and then the prerequisite was like, since I got that factor grant, I just started Googling, let's like, how can I get another grant? And I found this other grant called the Starter Company. And the prerequisite is like, you must have a business. So I started a business just to get this grant. And then it kind of just started growing into all of this after.
As I was saying, you mentioned music videos. There's no longer that much money in music videos. I used to do a lot of music videos as well, but it's kind of raced to the bottom at this point.
Yeah, and it's also like, but I also am a kind of supportive of like, why do you need a music video these days? Unless you're like Ariana Grande, and people are gonna like watch this music video. For the most part, I would like, for an artist, obviously you're not making that much money, and as someone who produced music videos, I should be saying, hey, go do a music video. I would say spend it more on like making some unique TikTok content instead of making like a music video.
100%.
Maybe do some unique things for like, maybe do like different setups for a chorus that you have in the song, and you do it in different places, and you kind of do like small little music videos, and you could still hire people to do that, but I would just call it like social content as opposed to making a music video, because it's hard to justify a return on investment for an artist on a music video.
Of course, and we have, I had the other day, I had a lengthy conversation with, founder of Lexicon, founder of Afrowave Festival.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, your returns on investment in terms of as a musician. And well, the TikTok is the place to be these days. And TikTok is like the most of emerging artists right now that we finding out about. It's coming from TikTok.
Oh, it's a tough industry. For example, like obviously the golden era was when they were selling CDs. Napster came along, and that was like a big problem. But I'm all for the artists, and I support the artists, and I want to see the artists do as best as they can.
Yeah, but it's really changing. You have to, if we're talking about wearing a lot of hats, like as an artist, you have to wear so much more hats.
Yeah, it's like so much more. You have to, and like it's really interesting, because as an artist, you're like, a lot of artists are very artist driven, but you also have to be an entrepreneur. You have to have that business cap on your head. There's so many great artists out there that I don't think,
so many talented people
that we'll never hear of.
And I think internet showed us that pretty much huge majority of population of humanity is very talented.
Yeah.
And we have great voices, and we have, great ideas and stuff. But then what will distinguish, the people who would go mainstream popular as opposed to people who just talented and have great voice? It's just that marketing, that being able to put themselves in the right place in the right time.
Yeah.
And it's like at this point, when people say marketing, they assume it's like marketing dollars are behind it. And it's like, at this point, it's just being in the right place, like being on TikTok. Like a lot of people been discovered and now is actually have, upper hand in negotiating with labels because they went big on TikTok.
Yeah.
Because they went big on Spotify, but those platforms that just allow you, like, you don't even have to invest. You just have to spend your time and, and create the content that people are interested in.
Yeah. And sometimes it is trial and error too. Like, you might be trying all these videos, and then one day one pops off and you did something different there. And then you're like, oh, this is working. And then, it's trial and error. And it's like we were talking about at the very beginning, it's just being a doer and trying all those times.
Yeah. I feel like it all, circles around. It's all circles.
We're back to where we started.
But it's all like, there's another interesting topic about all of this that sort of encloses everything. It's just technology changing, and like AI changing everything, and combination of like post pandemic, like I said before, and like inflation being crazy, and like people can't afford stuff. It just, those whole things coming together,
it's
just
create like pushing us down this path,
brand new industry for all of us to like participate in, like something that is like shifting so rapidly. I don't think it ever shifted that rapidly, because there was so many people who like immediately laid off like copywriters. Like, who hires copywriters? It's gone, right? And then slowly it's pushing for, like, next is stock, for example. Like, stock is pretty much stock images, like, who even cares, right? And now, with Sora and newer AIs, it's like the next one is just general, like Shutterstock, everything else, like everything will be replaced. The whole industries will shift. Yeah.
So I think like Shutterstock's already like introducing some AI tools, or like some of these like libraries. Because I remember I think I was on Shutterstock or Xstock or something, and it was like, you chose an image. You're like, hey, you don't like something in this image, you can change it. And it's like, just type in whatever prompt you want. So it's very interesting. And like you said, because I don't think we have seen like all these like unique forces coming together to push us down this road. Like, obviously we were talking about it in broadcast, where like live streaming and things became cheaper, so it became more accessible to people. But this is a whole new territory we're going in, and so quickly too, because like live streaming like started picking up like 2016. Maybe it was a little bit expensive then. By like 2020, it was already like anyone could like do it, and now it's like it's just getting exponential. It's just going to go faster and faster and faster, I think.
The industries actually kind of like change.
Yeah.
Like there's still staple things like television, for example. People say television is dead. Well, television is right now is your streaming. That's the television. So it didn't disappear per se. It just kind of changed what it is, the nature of it. Instead of being on cable, it's now, on demand, and you can have it whenever you want in the order you want. But the core of it, because I remember there was a period, especially I think like early 2000s, when everyone was screaming that television is dying and like it's gone, it's gonna die, and every year it was like it's gonna die. But then what you're watching, like the shows on Netflix, is television. The docs you're watching, the stuff, that's television. It just has a different delivery system.
I guess the only thing I do miss about television is it was curated. It's like someone actually chose what I had to. Because sometimes I go on Netflix and I'm like, I don't know what to watch. Like I'm sitting there for like 20 minutes being like, what do I watch? But yeah,
I think that's why we're gonna circle back and we're gonna get it again, but now with AI.
Yeah.
Because basically what's happening with your For You page like on YouTube is you get a curated experience, but for you. Yeah. As if the television was just this generalized what audience want to see, what just broader audience want to see. We're going to give it to them. But right now with like, especially I think YouTube is the one who's like on the forefront of it, like YouTube and maybe, live streaming services as well, like Twitch. Their For You pages are like extremely, tuned and catered specifically to you. Like the algorithm finds what you like and then feeds you more of that. So it's easy to find what you really want to watch.
Yeah. And I guess YouTube has a lot of data on everyone too, because of like Google, Gmail, like it knows what you like.
Maybe to wrap things up, tell me, what do you have on your table? What are you working on? And what are what are your plans?
Well, yeah, I'm still like, obviously growing Tallboy Water is probably one of my top priorities right now. I'd like to build that up a little more. And just keep making content and just one day at a time. I don't like I wish I could say I had some like big astronomical goals, but I'm just taking it one step at a time. And I'm more of an opportunist, and I just go with the flow and try to make cool shit as I go.
Well, I couldn't agree more, because I'm the same. I'm exactly the same mentality. I have no like long running schedule. That's why we fight with my girlfriend, because she's the opposite type. She will have schedule everything. She has to know everything in advance. I know it in a moment, and by now doing multiple things at the same time, and especially like managing a business and like studio and like patching the walls, painting stuff and like cleaning, I know that I cannot even explain to other people give them a plan, because it's just like being on fire. I have so many things I have to I'm just seeing the closest thing to me, and I start doing it. I have no time to like contemplate and put it in a schedule and
So there's a saying actually that I've heard, and maybe we need to work on this, but it's like if you're too busy working, you'll never get rich. If that's a little thing, because you got to like stop and smell and like plan where you want to go.
For sure. But I think that's one thing that you and me we should learn. Just to take a little break.
Think about it. Think about the bigger picture for a second. It's like being too caught up in the moment might not be the best thing.
I think that will be our closing idea that we want to leave to our audience, that guys, sometimes you have to stay back and look at the massive work you did and just contemplate a little bit. And I will see you in the next one, and thank you, Phil, for coming. It was a real pleasure.
It was a real pleasure. I enjoyed it a lot. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Oh wow, sorry if that took so long.
No worries.
Felt like it was not that long.
It was great.